Ever since Felina had joined the enforcers, she wanted to make her uncle proud of her. Even despite she was a very strong lieutenant, a strong fighter, but sometimes she doesn't even feel like her uncle was proud of her enough. Despite that, she was showing that she has more respect and more trustworthy to the SWAT cats, unlike her uncle. Ever since SWAT cats appeared in the Megacat City, her uncle has showing them so much distrust about these two cats or the supposed valiant heroes appearing around the town, saving it, interfering with, in his mind, he's saying, enforcers' affairs. And he was want to make sure that they don't interfere anymore. Like he want to arrest them for interfering or disturbing the peace in town. But in Felina's mind, the SWAT cats aren't that bad. After all, they saved the day of the city and the rest of its inhabitants when the enforcers could not be able to protect the citizens at all. And in fact, she was told by some of the other enforcers that even the SWAT cat had saved her uncle once from Mad Cat, and he had even thanked them for once for that saving his life. But despite this, she wanted to know more about the SWAT cats, and so every time on her spare time, she studies a lot about the SWAT cats, reading about their previous heroic actions, and she tried to figure out exactly who those SWAT cats can be. But at least she admires their handiwork, their work, their protection of the city went along with the enforcers. She just had hope that the enforcers could work together with the SWAT cats in some sort of cooperation, rather than fight against them. But it's something else that her uncle doesn't even know, or unlike anyone else knows. She in fact admires T-Bone, but her admiration for T-Bone is just more often not more as an idol or something that she do, but she had in fact feelings for T-Bone. But even despite that, she knows if her uncle would find out she had a crush on T-Bone, one of the SWAT cats, he would lose his mind. So she had never ever mentioned this to anyone, especially one of her loyal friends at the Enforcers, because she knows if she would tell any one of her close friends at the Enforcers, they may have even telling her uncle about this, despite keeping it asking by keeping it a secret. So why would haven't she told anyone about this? Well, since she knows her uncle doesn't even trust or respect this SWAT cats at all, but in her mind, they need to be trusted, and they have saved the city so many times, and she has actually shown some respect for them and even trustworthy. She's seeing SWAT cats as true allies rather from just random village heroes or supposed bad guys in her uncle's mind. But one day, her meeting with when she confessed against to T-Bone about her feelings would end up coming up soon, unless that she did have no idea about it. Because during one day, when she was on her patrol in the air, on the street among with another patrol car, with not some other enforcers, there was this mobsters or gangsters trying to robbing a bank, and the gangsters was actually being spotted by them and tried to avoid being detected, but it was too late. And before the enforcers, Felina and her partner could reach out for enforcements, they were fired upon, and they had to repeat the fire unless they'd been seriously hurt. But as they were close to the city hall, Callie, who was there, there's some sort of the only one who can reach out to the SWAT cats, heard about these shootings and managed to reach out for them, and they immediately went to see them. They saw that Felina and her partner was taking shelter, but at least protection against one of the doors of the car. But despite this, they couldn't even get inside the car to reach out for help unless they were hit from the windshield. So what happens? When Felina sees the SWAT cat trying to reach out and saying that they need help and points at the door, points directly at the bank. And as she's doing that, one of the gangsters managed to fire right at her, hits her shoulders and in her chest, at least like 3 times. She was she fell down, and her partner had only 2 options: either try to protect her or even keep firing against the gangsters. Even though Felina was almost unconscious, she said, "Stop them at any cost," and then she lost unconscious. But then her partner, repeatedly pointed at her partner to his SWAT and saw what happened. They flew down as fast as they could, and they managed to. So T-Bone, he jumped down on the cable as long as Razor took care of the plane is trying to stable enough, put her up in the plane, and they took off. As they took off, the rest of the enforcers arrived in the area. Her partner telling her uncle what happened, and he demanded to know where his niece were at the moment. But he said that the SWAT cats took her, and he was not happy about this. But he said that they were taking her to the hospital because they flew at that direction. At least he's hoping that they did that. Unless, if they didn't, it would be a bad ending for the SWAT cats. But the situation at the bank was almost quickly been taken care of. The gangsters was immediately surrounded and almost give up immediately. But what happened for T-Bone and Felina and Razor? Well, T-Bone and Razor managed to take Felina to the hospital, but she was in a bad condition. She was such bad condition that they didn't know if she would even survive. When they managed to take her to the hospital, they gave her the doctor a briefing most things that happened, how she was injured, and they took her immediately to the surgery. Despite that, T-Bone was want to stay behind. Razor told him that it was too dangerous because if Feral came out to the fast hospital with some of the enforcers, they would probably taken him into custody, believing he was the one who must make sure that was hurt. But T-Bone refused to leave. But Razor explained they would come back when things are better, because Kelly couldn't have them informed, or at least they will have come back at night, at least. And then T-Bone agreed, so they both left just before Feral arrived with another 4 enforcers. And even despite her conditions, she was nearly almost had been losing her life. If it wasn't for T-Bone and Razor fast enough acting to take her to hospital in time, if they had arrived maybe less like 20 minutes later, she would not have been alive. The doctors told her uncle that the enforcers that the SWAT cats saved her life. If she had even arrived even soon later, she wouldn't have even made it, despite their efforts though. And Farrell wanted to know how his niece were at the moment. He told her, the doctor told him, that Felina was in serious condition, but right now she was stable. But her condition could be very critical for the next 12 hours. And the doctor said there still is a small chance that she might not even survive the night. And hearing that made him terrified. For the very first time in a long time in his career, he felt devastated. Only losing his only niece will be devastating for a big, huge blow to him. But he knows that for sure, that she is a good fighter, she will survive. In the middle of the night, T-Bone and Razor arrived to the hospital in darkness. They managed to figure out where Felina was located. They sneaked inside and they managed to locate the chart of her condition. Razor, who has some at least some skills or at least have picked up on some of the how to read these charts, and even told T-Bone about her condition. But T-Bone, as tough it is, he was hurt. He told Razor that she will survive. She's a tough fighter. After all, she's a very tough enforcer. She used to be one of the top pilots in the enforcers. So why wouldn't she just give up the hope that they survive? But as Razor was guarding the door, Ray's T-Bone whispered in her ear, said, "I know you will make it. If you make it, I will tell you something important. I promise you that." Razor couldn't even hear that. And what was he supposed to mention that? Well, that was something he didn't even tell his friend about. Not until much later on, because they had to leave because a doctor was approaching to make some look after her. They always kept waiting to hear about Felina's recovering or not. And sure enough, T-Bone was right. She was one of the toughest enforcers they were ever had. Because after a few weeks of recovering, she had made it. She was back in enforcers by the end of next month. And even despite her uncle had told her not to be in, she would have to be put for some sort of desk work for the next couple of more weeks because he was ensured not she was had made full recovery, despite the doctor had told him that she had made a full recovery. Anyway, though, but it was something that after T-Bone had learned that she had made a full recovery, and what he even knew were exactly where she lived. So he managed to sneak out at the base, even went to her location where she lives, and she was so surprised that T-Bone was there. He asked if they could talk, and she said yes, and they actually left on the roof at the moment, where the other the vehicle Ray T-Bone took. They had a small helicopter or something. Then he said that he wanted to tell her something, and somehow she must have heard that when she was in a such coma or something, because she said, "I thought I heard your voice when you talked to me when I was in hospital." That surprised him, but he said that he wanted to tell her something. She asked what it could have been. Then he told her he was ready to tell her his secret identity. But she was shocked. She wasn't expecting it, and she tried to plan not to do it because she could not even was true not to be ready to see his true face. But he said, "I want to show you my true self since I love you more than anything, Felina." That surprised her, but then she decided to admit was in love with him. And that made him like surprising, but he decided to do it anyway. She was surprised because she knew that she has seen his picture somewhere else, but then it clicked. He is a former enforcer by the name Chance Furlong. He was discharged from the enforcers because and his friend Jake Clawson had made destroy the entire enforcer's new headquarters. She asks him if it is true he was the one who damaged it, and he explained it was, but he explained the details exactly what caused it, and she agreed, and she believed him. But then he asked something else: if she wanted to go out with him, even though the spy had just hadn't revealed his true identity to her, and that they knew each other's true names, what happened, even that she knows that T-Bone, aka Chance Furlong, is one of the SWAT cats. She was silent for a brief moment when said, but she said yes. But they had to keep this all in secret for all her for the purpose for her uncle. If her uncle found out she is dating one of the two former enforcers that destroyed the headquarters, he would go insane. Perhaps even punish her, perhaps even discharge her from the enforcers, which T-Bone could not even let it happen. So if they had to keep their relationship a secret, they was all worth it though. So for that day on, they decided to keep their new relationship as a secret. The only one who knows about it was in fact Razor, because he told him when he returned back to the base. And Razor, he was not happy, because telling one of the enforcers a true name to one of the that, but especially the niece to the commander of Feral. But Ray T-Bone explained that they could trust her. If that he had been telling her that's her true name, his true name, they would have probably had been enforcers on the way there. And there wasn't. Even despite Razor thought maybe it was a bad idea, but after seeing how much he cared about Felina, despite they want to keep this a secret. And in fact, they managed to keep their relationship a secret for a long time, because even despite that SWAT cats had to sometimes help around, and even though now Felina was aware the true name behind Debo, when she just smiled and said thanks for their help, despite the annoyance from her uncle thinking that she shouldn't be thanking them or trying to arrest them or something. But her true dream to make them to work together as two forces. They were far away from her dream, but she still had hope it could happen. After they had been dating for about 6 months, during that period of time, they had been on several days like dinners, movies, or picnics, or just having a great time. But after 6 months, their secret was revealed. Her uncle somehow was out on a walk during his patrol when at the car when he saw Felina at a cafe on her day off with Chance Furlong. At first, he thought maybe they were just talking because he used to be enforcers. But despite he has no like much respect to him for what happened. But since they were just having a cup of coffee and just talking, they didn't do anything. She just laughed and he just made some goofy. They were just talking, but he still demanded to know exactly what happened. So, by the next day when she came back to headquarters, he had to call her to his office, and he demanded to know exactly why she was having a time with Chance Furlong at the cafe. She made an excuse that she found out that he was an enforcer, and she just wanted to know exactly what made him to be as one of the claimed to be the best pilot in within the enforcers, and what happened in his version of what happened to the headquarters. Despite her uncle's annoyance, but at least she wasn't hasn't been revealed that she was dating him. But that wouldn't take much longer because from time to time Furlong was discovered with Felina by either enforcers or her uncle, but one time it was the final when he found out exactly what was going on. Because he saw Felina with Chance Furlong outside the door to the apartment building when she was kissing him. That made him furious. She was now revealed that she was in fact dating him. Her uncle was trying to make sure that she was not going to see him again, but she told him if she wasn't allowed, she's old enough to make her own decision, even despite her uncle's annoyance to that. Because if he wants to make her to lead the enforcers, she would be gladly to lead the enforcers if he had what could not accept that she's dating him. But that was the final moment when they had a fight because then she stormed out of the office, just left the building, and went straight home. She then told Chance over a phone call what happened. He tried to convince her not to leave the enforcers because it was her dream to work that as part of the force. Even despite this, she tried to convince him it was what has been best for the best to leave it so that they can be together and that her uncle cannot be much more annoyed about it. But Chance told her to give it a chance, try to explain why to him, why she loves him. So she went back to the enforcer's headquarters, but the next day she talked to her uncle, explained why. Ever since she moved to Megacat City from her former hometown, she had been lonely. Despite had so much fun within this enforcer, she had many great friends, but she hasn't been able to find a boyfriend. And now when she had a boyfriend, her family was probably happy about it. But her uncle was the only one that was against her relationship with Vance Furlong. Despite he was just a he used to be a former enforcer. So why wouldn't she be allowed to date him? After all, she is older her own self. So, so she agreed to do this for one thing. She invited her uncle to have dinner with him, with her, and Chance. Despite her uncle was not even happy or tried to deny this invitation, but she said, least have a chance to talk to him. Let him prove that he is a good guy. So her uncle agreed reluctantly that despite he didn't want to talk to her. But she told Chance about this idea. Well, he was almost like her uncle. He thought maybe it was not as a good idea. But he agreed to do this for her. So on the Friday when he arrived, Chance arrived maybe like 20 minutes before her uncle did. Even though when he was in the kitchen talking to her, when the door rang and Chance opened the door, despite seeing that her uncle was looking staring daggers at him. But even during dinner, both were just staring at each other. She tried to make this conversation about her uncle, about things, if they could try to work it out, try to be friends at least, or at least be at good terms with each other. Despite this, her uncle was still very not happy about this. But the rest of the family, especially Felina's parents, was actually very supportive because when they met Chance for the first time, her mother said that he's such a charming guy, he's such a strong fighter, he's a strong fighter, or something like that. He was. They were informed that he's used to be working with the enforcers like herself, but that was before she joined them. But they were actually supportive to seeing that she's happy with him. So when she told her family that her uncle was not even supportive and that she was to telling that she might have even thought about leaving the enforcers so that her uncle could not, since he would not even support that. But the family were not even happy on the idea because they saw her. She had been trying to be a part of the enforcers for a while, and now when she has finally been invited, will enjoying the enforcers. So why would she just leave her dream work? Because of her uncle. Because he is not even supportive of her relationship with Tebow, aka Chance. But even after, despite this, the commander Feral, actually gave Chance a T-Bone a chance to be showing that he can be a good guy, a good boyfriend. And of course, after about almost another couple of months, Farrell had then accepted T-Bone as the right guy for Felina. But they didn't tell her uncle about the true identity as he used to be one of the SWAT cats. because if he found out, that would be the end of this supposed new friendship among Chance and Feral. Both agreed not to even telling this to her uncle at any point at all. And even if they talked about the SWAT cats, they tried to make him to at least give in the point of her uncle's views to agree some of the points that he agreed about SWAT cats. But when they brought the topic up when he said the word SWAT cats, he said at least they are showing you bravery in some points. And even when Felina said if the enforcers are unable to help at any point or at anything that we have before, the SWAT cats has always been there helping us to save not only us but also the rest of the citizens of the town. Which her uncle agreed, and it slowly started to open up that he started slowly support the SWAT cats, even despite what happened. But despite that, Chance and Felina agreed never to tell her uncle about him to be a part of SWAT cats. And then, after they had been dating for about 5 years, T-Bone proposed to Felina, which she said yes immediately. They decided to have their wedding at the town within a couple of weeks. Her whole family, parents, siblings, cousins, under arrived to the city, and her uncle was actually proud to see her getting married. And even Razor was being to be Jan's best man. They decided to celebrate the honeymoon on this cabin which T-Bone had rented just for about a whole week. They had a great time there though. But despite what's happening, things between her and T-Bone was just such great between them. And after that, they actually have a big news about 2 years later. They were expecting a baby, but this time it was going to happen. They were expecting a boy, which they named Lucilius Jr. after her uncle. Hearing that opened his heart even more, and he could felt more honored and proud to have a nephew, a great nephew, named after him. But after that, though, after the son was about 4 years old, they had another baby, a daughter, which they named Hannah. Hannah was really like her mother, brave, strong, and even shared some of her father's personality. But despite this, they wanted to have let their children to choose their own path in life. If they want to be an enforcer officer like their mother, or to be something else, which both of them would agree. But despite being a family man, Chance decided to keep his work as an enforcer, as a SWAT cat. Even though things between Felina and Chance was actually a great time. They loved to be married when they loved the most. Because if Chance had even been able to telling Felina about those years ago when she was shot at this against one of the robbers, if he had even been able to tell her before it happened, he would have missed the chance to be telling that, and missed out so much joy and happiness with someone he loved more than anything. But he was even happy that she made it pull it through, because if she had lost her life, passed away during the dead robbery, he wouldn't have forgiven himself. When he told that to her, she made her start to cry out tears of joy, knowing how much he really cared about her. And she told him, because she had feelings for him at least a while back before they even met. Well, before they admitted their feelings for each other on the roof. Despite after all this time, Farrell, her uncle, was still not even aware that his own niece is married to T-Bone of the SWAT cats. They had still agreed not to be telling that, maybe not until almost so many years later after he had retired. But when he told them, though, he was shocked. He was a little bit upset that he had kept this a secret, but now at least that Feral was accepting T-Bone as part of the family. After all, after since he was married with Felina, he had actively protecting his family no matter what cost. Even he said, I would have sacrificed my own life to make sure my own family is safe. I would have never harmed my wife or my kids. They mean so much to me, Commander. And from hearing those words made his former commander proud to know that Chance were in fact a good guy all along, despite their hostility back in those years ago. But now Chance was actually have been happy to be coming out to his former commander and to his father, his wife's uncle about this big secret. Even though despite this, Felina was really happy to be married with her true love at all. Even the same for Chance. So this is how Chance Furlong and Felina Feral are the true love are gonna make family. The end.